At the end of the day, it's a balance. And I think the biggest thing is you always, always, always have to continually grow, right? Never stay stagnant. I think it's better to be very cold or very hot than lukewarm.
What's up? What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Backrow Boys, the number one podcast in the community. We are listening. We got viewers. We got subscribers. We are a fan favorite. So continue to like, subscribe, and tell your friends about us. Hey, I'm Ebby Matthew. We're back here. I'm here with my Backrow Boys. I got my boy Chris and I got my boy Stan. How you fellas doing? Stan, you doing good out there?
I'm doing good, doing good. Glad to be back. Man, what a week it's been. So I'm sure we'll talk about a little bit up and down, but football's back. It's always a good time of the year.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Chris, how you feeling out there, Mr. Bass Pro Shop?
Yes, sir. It's good to be back. Tuesday. It's still hot as shit outside, and football's back. So, I'm excited to talk about it. It's both exciting and sad. So,
exactly, fellas, we have so much to talk about with football. Obviously, football's back, like you guys mentioned, and it's been a roller coaster of fun games. So
you can say that again.
It's been pretty crazy out there. Obviously, us all being Dallas Cowboys fans, we're Cowboys for life. Obviously, everyone knows about the sadness of the injury for Mr. Dak Prescott that we just witnessed during the Tampa Bay game. First and foremost, what a fucking terrible game that was. So I'm kind of irritated just even talking about it. I was crying all night long on Sunday night, and just to see the injury. Obviously, there's a lot of ups and downs. I just want to kind of get your thoughts. Like Chris, how do you feel when you saw the Dak injury?
I guess to take it like a step back for me, like I'm a huge Cowboys fan, but I feel like Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones make me question that every day. Mm-hmm. But man, I'm like, once football ends, from that time to when it starts, I'm just like waiting for the days to end. I'm like, man, I can't fucking wait for football. I'm ready to go. So this first game happened. Like I was, like, you can ask Amy, like I was like smiling. I was so excited. Like I was just like so close to the TV. And yeah, the game was shit. Like I'm not like super surprised by that. I knew we would lose, but to see that Dak got hurt, like that's like the worst case scenario. Like I rather, I don't want anyone else to get injured, or I would have preferred us getting blown out, but him getting injured like this, where he's out for a few games, dude, it's the worst case scenario. So I have no words to say, but love to hear what you guys think and how the game went for y'all.
So what, dude, I'm telling you, man, the football season is always a fun time. Like I plan a lot of my scheduling around football, especially on Sundays. Like right after we come back from church, it's literally from 12 p.m. all the way to 9 p.m. that night. Hey, football, nothing else. Maybe grab some pizza or some wings or something delicious just to kind of enjoy the Sunday. But other than that, it's all football. It's fantasy checking, red zoning, 20-yard, 30-yard, 40-yard, 50-yard, what? It doesn't matter. It's all about football that Sunday. You know what I'm saying? So
yes,
I don't know if you noticed, but before Tampa and Dallas played, if you notice Dak, there's something different about him. Like he was reportedly telling everyone he feels great. Like he's been throwing the ball, he's learning different things, he's doing things he's never done before, right? In the last few years. And if you notice, he had a baseball or a cap on, and he kept on going up and down with his hat. And something from that moment, I just felt really uncomfortable. He looked nervous, but he looked excited. So it was a weird feeling when we went through the game. We couldn't even get anything to CD, and nobody was catching anything. That's what pissed me off the most. But Stan, how did you feel when Dak went down, when the Cowboys weren't even getting anything, when Zeke was doing okay. He had a futuristic Power Rangers type of helmet on, but we're trying to, what's your thoughts, man? So,
first of all, like you said, the Sunday was amazing. I think that whole entire Sunday, from noon until the Cowboys game ended, it was just football nonstop. As soon as, I think 11:50 hit, red zone started. Scott Hansen, second dad is back. So literally we watched him from, I watched this guy talk from 12 until 6 o'clock, no commercials, 7 hours of commercial-free football. Yep. So if you don't have red zone, that's kind of my sponsorship right there. Another free shout out right there. Yeah. Hey, shout out to Scott.
Dude, that guy's amazing.
Yep.
Dude, I heard And this is one of my friends was telling me, like he has a little apparatus or machine so he can use the bathroom. Like there's no way you cannot use the bathroom for 7 hours there. Like he
Yeah.
has it like at his desk there where he's able to kind of use the bathroom. Kind of like an astronaut, you know how you can go in your suit. So I heard it's like that.
What
So
the hell? That's crazy.
I need to
but
go.
yeah,
Ew. Gross.
yeah. But in regards to the Cowboys game, I mean, there's so much hype. You know, the crazy thing, Tom Brady, we have never, ever, ever beaten him. That I didn't even know that. I didn't know he was
I didn't
undefeated
know.
against the Cowboys.
Yeah.
So now he's 6-0 against us. But yeah, there was so
Seven-
much
seven-
hype. Are they 7-0?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's 7-0 against us. But yeah, losing Dak was just so heartbreaking. And again, it was kind of in garbage time too. It's like 4 minutes left on the clock. We're down like what 2 touchdowns. It was 19-3 at that point. So we really needed 3 scores to kind of come back and
Right.
win. So of course, I wouldn't recommend pulling him out, but it's just the way that he got hurt. Where again, it was kind of meaningless at that point. The other thing, I 100% agree with you, Chris. Which Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones, I think we definitely need a real GM. Because think about it, we should have expected these results when our number one receiver, that's all we have. Our second receiver was Noah Brown. You know, nobody's going to win a championship with him being our second receiver. It was just CD, Dalton Schultz. You know, the running backs did okay. And then we lost, Tyron Smith. You know, and then we had 2 rookies on kind of the left guard and left tackle. And of course, you know, that's one of the best defenses kind of in the league right now. So it's just heartbreaking. What's even more heartbreaking was our conference, right, or the division. So the Eagles won. They blew out the Detroit Lions. Jalen Hurts looked amazing. The Commanders and Jaguars. You don't think Jalen Hurts looked good, Chris? Or?
I mean, as a passer, not really, but I mean, a runner, yeah. He was. If you watch the game, he ran so much, but he
had 90 yards running.
Yeah, he was running like crazy, which that makes him amazing, you know, because yeah.
I mean, the Eagles look good. Commanders, you know, Carson Wentz actually looked pretty good, but again, they played the Jaguars, so I'm not too sure about that. And then, man, the Giants, the balls on the bowl, right? So going for the 2 at the end. So
I'm telling you,
yeah.
Stan, you being our, local Backrow Boy, but also our local physician, like, I mean, it was saying 6 to 8 weeks, but I mean, honestly, when I saw this injury, I was like, okay, he's just it's probably like a bruise. But then, I mean, he had to get surgery. He got surgery yesterday, and it's like, do you think he'll be back in 4 weeks? Is that possible?
Honestly, I don't think, I think the best thing to do, he probably wants to be back. But I don't think it's smart to kind of bring him back, unless he's kind of fully healthy. Right? Yeah. The biggest thing is I think we need a better backup. I don't think Cooper Rush is going to win us games. I don't think even a serviceable backup. I think, honestly, I don't know what y'all think about this. And I was reading some reports. Do y'all think we should trade Pollard? Would y'all do this? Pollard for Jimmy Garoppolo, like 1-to-1? Is that something y'all would consider doing?
So I don't know. I mean, I know Chris is shaking his head, but me personally, I think I'm on the same boat that Cooper Rush is not going to do us anything for 4 weeks or 6 to 8 weeks, whatever the time frame really is. But the first thing I thought of was Jimmy G. Is that he's not the best quarterback out there, but at the same time, it's like he can fill that spot, just as well, or like until the time being until Dak comes back. Chris, why are you shaking your head?
I mean, I guess I guess he did take a pay cut, right? Or they restructured his deal, so if whoever trades for him, it wouldn't be as bad of a trade, right?
Something like that, yeah.
For Jimmy G, right?
Yeah, I think they lowered his cap hit, so I guess that's not bad. But yeah, I mean, I feel like we're gonna eventually lose Pollard anyway, so I guess it's not a horrible deal. I just feel like Jimmy G and Cooper Rush, it's not like a huge jump, It's not like I still feel like we're gonna lose with Jimmy G, like especially with our offensive line, because his whole like game is based on like the run game has to do well, and then that's how he's like establishes himself. I don't think he's like not a good passer, but I mean, so I guess that's my thing with it. I feel like Cooper Rush will hopefully be decent, but I'm hoping because to me, I feel like Zeke had a pretty good game. I feel like Zeke looked good, like the holes are opening enough for him. I'm hoping they'll just feed him, and I also have him in fantasy, so I need those points, what I'm saying? But so I wouldn't mind that. But yeah, I was gonna say too with the division, the only win I was really impressed with was the Giants one. because
Oh, yeah.
Jaguars, I still don't think Jaguars are like at that level of like relevant yet. Like I think they've gotten better, but Detroit, they're still like to me. Like I think the best thing about them is Dan Campbell is just he's probably a great coach and motivator, you know. Like I was really surprised Eagles didn't destroy them. Like it shouldn't have been a 3-point game, you know. Like they were down and then Eagles came up and they were up by a lot and then they were down again or then it got close, but
No, Jamal Williams had 2 touchdowns, like 2 tutties. Like
Yeah.
it was crazy. Like
Honestly, like I feel like that was a little fluke. I mean, he just vultured those touchdowns from DeAndre Swift. Honestly,
DeAndre
if
Swift.
Jamal Williams wasn't there, DeAndre Swift probably would have had like 40 points in fantasy, right? He probably would have got those 2 touchdowns, and it would have been just a different game.
Well, I'm glad Jamal Williams got those 2 tutties because I have him in Chris's league, and so I'm happy, and that's how I got this nice league in first place after week 1. So, and I was ranked as 10th place in that league.
It happens, you know. It's part of the story. But I was gonna say with the Dak 4-week thing, like I agree with Stan. I don't think he's gonna come back in 4 weeks. I think like I'm a huge Dak fan, but I think that guy like he's too positive and he like I don't know. I don't really believe him with some of the injury stuff because I feel like he's like, oh, I'm fine, but then his calf is messed up, or oh, like I'm fine, but then his throwing shoulder is messed up. You know, I think he tries to be like very positive in some ways, and I think us as fan base, we're like, oh, he's good, but then we find out like, oh, he's injured, and part of that too is like, if he has a bad game and he has like this injury in the background, or like people are like, oh, Dak sucks ass, Dak, bring Romo back, like that's what people say, but it's like we just don't know because he's like just lying to us sometimes, I guess. But I don't think he'll come back in 4. It'll be great though if he does.
So, the crazy thing about having, I think a backup quarterback is so essential though, like having a good one. Because recently I was watching, I don't know if y'all have seen it, Man in the Arena, the Tom Brady documentary. So I was watching one of the first couple episodes and I didn't know this, or I think I grew up watching it, but I just forgot since it's been so long. That first year when they won the Super Bowl, in the playoffs, Tom Brady got hurt in, I think, one of the games. I think it was like the AFC Championship game, if I'm not mistaken. So Drew Bledsoe, who was the backup, came in, had like a crazy game. Like he got benched in the middle of the season and then didn't play pretty much any of the regular season. Tom Brady got hurt in the playoffs, and then Drew Bledsoe came in and had like 3 or 4 touchdowns and kind of led them to the Super Bowl. And the Super Bowl, Bill Belichick is like, hey, Brady's starting. And Drew Bledsoe kind of accepted that. He's like, man, I should be starting, but like he took one for the team. So I think just having a good, and that's a different scenario. Drew Bledsoe was the number 1 overall pick. So that's just a different scenario and having that elite of a backup quarterback. But I think we need a little bit more of an upgrade than Cooper Rush.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's funny.
Maybe we tank for Bryce Young.
Oh my
God.
I don't know, man. That's an interesting take right there. But with Drew Bledsoe, I feel like his career has been like that. Like, I mean, even when he was in Dallas, like he got injured, and then that's when the Tony Romo era started in a lot of ways, right? Like, but I mean,
poor guy.
Yeah, poor guy, man. But I mean, he's a champion. He's probably sitting on his millions of dollars in his ranch house. But
yeah,
I know you guys mentioned Stephen Jones and Jerry Jones, and like one of the things I do agree. Obviously I've been a diehard Cowboys fan for so long, but like after this past game for week 1, like, if you kind of question, it's like, man, like, it's like, it feels like it's disappointment after disappointment. It's shock after shock, and it's not really surprises anymore, but it's just like, there's so much you can really hold on to, but obviously I'm still not giving up. I'm still with my boys. I'm still riding till the end, until the wheels fall off in a sense. But the one thing I've noticed with Jerry Jones, it's like, he's like, oh, hey, I don't want to, keep Dak out for 8 weeks. I don't want it to be the full 8 weeks. I want him to come back. He might come back in 4 weeks, right? So it's like the idea of like, he's trying to please the ticket holders. He's trying to please, the season ticket holders so that prices won't drop. Jerry's money doesn't get messed up, because a lot of times Jerry cares about football, but at the end of the day, his business is what's the most important thing. So he's trying to make sure he's pleasing the ticket holders. But a lot of times, we can kind of relate it back to life. Like, pleasing people might not always get you the right situation. Sometimes you got to kind of like, for Jerry's situation, it might be best to rest Dak. So, because if he comes back too soon, he might get injured again. So, I mean, I guess what I'm trying to like see, is there ever been like in a situation like you guys ever, like you ever feel like you guys are people pleasing, or do you feel like in our community we're always trying to please people in a sense? Like, you feel like we've ever been in those situations?
I think I used to be like that. I think back in the day, I used to be, yeah, I always wanted to make everyone happy, right?
Right.
So I would go down the path of least resistance. If somebody asked me to do something more than, yeah, I have a really bad time saying no. I think growing up now, I've learned to say no to a lot of events a little bit more. You know, when people want to hang out, when people want to do things, when people ask for favors. Back in the day, I would throw everything down and say, hey, I'll do it. I'll help you out. Or, hey, I'll go to this event, even though truly, I think I didn't want to go. I just want to relax sometimes at home. But I think there has to be that balance there, you know, of trying to please people and trying to, you know, take care of yourself as well, right? I always have saying is, you know, you can't fill anybody else's cup up with water unless you fill yours up first, right?
Mhm.
Or your glass has to be full before you can pour it into somebody else's glass. So that's the one thing that I always tell people. The other thing is, you know, you really grow as a person, you can't have too many yes men in your life, right? So I think all the leaders and things like that, again, we'll go back to the Cowboys when we say this, right? So Jerry Jones, Stephen Jones, they probably have a bunch of people that just say yes to them, right? Because they're scared of kind of the consequences they would do if, you know, they kind of didn't agree with their acts, right? So, but that's not really growing. I think you got to surround yourself with people that will kind of tell you the truth, tell you the hard things that you don't want to hear. Otherwise, you're never going to grow.
Exactly. I think that's the best approach. Like, I've met so many people in my life where it's like, if you're not like a yes person in their life, they'll
Mhm.
X you out real fast. And so they try to keep people that kind of just agree with whatever they say or their thought pattern, because if they feel any towards like any negativity towards them, they just want to get rid of it. I'm the type of guy, like, if you ask me for my honest opinion, I'm gonna tell you my honest truth. I never want to sugarcoat it with anyone. I always want to, you know, if it's you guys or family, friends, whoever it is, I always want to make sure, like, hey, this is my opinion, this is what I feel, and this is, you know, if you had to ask me, I'm gonna tell you how it is. That's I have my approach have always been since I was younger. But I kind of see it, yeah, a little bit your way, because I've when I was growing up, I was such people pleaser. I wanted everyone to like me. I want to make sure that, like, you know, I was liked and I liked them, and we have this great friendship with everyone. And I mean, you guys know, like, if a lot of times when I was growing up, like, I always try to be with every single group. Even in the Martha church, I try to be with every single Martha church somehow. But like, my thing, I started realizing the older you get, it's like, you know, and it's, I got to shout out to Dan Barkey on this one. Dan told me a long time ago, it's like, hey, you can have all these friends right now, but with the older you get, your closest friends are going to be like a handful. And the older I've gone, I realized, like, some of my closest friends are people that I've grown up with since I was younger. My close family members, like, those are the people that's always going to kind of be there for me for the rest of my life. And the older I'm getting, I've noticed, like, the smaller and smaller my groups get. And so that's just one of my takes. And yeah, I think sometimes I kind of fall into that trap of, like, okay, trying to please people, but it's trying to, like, you know, you're trying to catch yourself, because daily we're trying to be better, right? We're trying to improve and trying to get, you know, kind of grow as a man and grow as a backrow boy. I don't know, just throwing that out there. But no, I mean, yeah, Chris, I wanted to get your thoughts. Like, how do you feel about this whole, especially in our community? I kind of wanted to kind of expand on that.
No, I definitely agree. I like definitely growing up, I was super people pleaser kind of mentality where it's like, you know, you just I don't know, like you in church, you want to be like the cool person, you know, or at school, you want to be because it's just like growing up, that's like what it's all about, right? Like if you have friends, like you have more fun, right? If you're by yourself, one, it's like, you know, it's like, oh, like this person has all these friends, you know, why am I like the loner or why am I left out, right? And I feel like that made me like for me, I feel like it's interesting, like with people pleasing, I guess like the few ways that I tried to please people was like one, like humor. Like I feel like if you're the funny person, like people like, you know, draw to you, people want to connect with you, people want to hang out with you. So I always tried to be funny. So like that's why I loved like watching like stand-ups and stuff, like, you know, Kevin Hart, Dave Chappelle, you know, Russell Peters, like just watching them, I was like, hey, what the fuck they say? I'll try to do the same thing with my friends.
Yeah.
So I feel like being funny was definitely one thing I tried to do to please people. And then I think the other thing is like, you know, trying to just be everybody's friends, like, you know, like Ebby was saying, you know, like in I feel like especially like in middle school, elementary days, remember like with AIM, like I was in all those AIM chats, you know, like all the
Yeah.
groups and stuff, and like just talking with like random people. And then even when I got to like college, I feel like, you know, like go to like parties or go hang out at people's apartments, just trying to find ways to like expand in my social network, you know. So I thought like And I remember like back in the day, it's probably like a lame thing to say, but I thought it was like so cool to have like so many Facebook friends or like Instagram followers, you know, like I was like, oh shit, like I got this many followers, that guy only has like this many followers. So I thought that was cool. But yeah, I would definitely say like, I mean, I guess for us, it's easy to look at it from our culture point of view or our ethnicity, because I feel like being Indian, like, I feel like it's a big part of our community. You know, people are trying to please left and right, right? With your careers, with, you know, your wife, your husband, with your cars, with your clothes, house, like everything is like some type of way of like showing people that like, oh, you're the shit, right? And so I definitely feel like it stemmed from that, because I feel like from church and like your community, you're just trying to be like the best. And I feel like part of it is good, you know, like it's good to be the best version of yourself, but some of it, I feel like, I guess that's where it stems to like the people pleasing part of it, where it's like, oh, you're doing it just to like please people, and it's not about like what you actually care about, I guess. But
No,
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, Chris. I think the other thing is, sorry, I mean, I know Chris was talking about, yeah, I know Chris was talking about, you know, trying to kind of show off or flex. And I think I actually see a lot of that at church. Surprisingly, you know, church, everyone kind of dresses their best. You know, I've seen people, you know, never see them wear like Rolexes or anything, but then at church, you'll see kind of some of these uncles kind of wearing Rolexes. You'll see them bringing their nicest cars out. So, and I think that's kind of a subtle flex that people have is like, hey, because back in the day, it used to be uncles and aunties be like, hey, look what my kid is doing. That's my flex. Like, oh, he's an engineer, he's a doctor, he's a lawyer, blah, 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 blah. And that's kind of the way that they would flex. Now I feel like as kind of the uncles and aunties have been more established here, they're getting more money, they're kind of showing off in more materialistic way, whether it's, you know, oh, let's have a prayer meeting in my house and show you my multi-million dollar mansion, right? Or let me bring my Jaguar or new Tesla or, you know, Porsche to church, right? And again, they're not actively showing that, but in the back of their mind, there's a reason they bring the nice car to church, right?
oh, for sure.
Where they don't bring it anywhere else besides church, right? Because they don't want to show off at the end of the day. So I don't know if that's technically people pleasing, but that's just like another thing I thought of just in our community itself.
Yeah, it comes up, right? Because I feel like even for me and my family, like I feel like we have, or we say like, hey, look, we need a church car. You know, we need a nice car that you take to church. So that's like what we like associate with like a nice car. So I feel like that I can definitely see that point.
No, and it's so true because like being a realtor, it's like that's like a huge like image and like making sure that you're they always say invest or show that you're like have money so that you can make money. I've heard this quote from other realtors and stuff like that. I just never been that type of realtor. Like there was like, I don't know if you guys notice on like social media or like LinkedIn or wherever you guys see things where you see like realtors posting like, oh, you know, just, you know, this month I made this much money and all this stuff. Like for me, when I started the real estate thing, it's because I was really passionate about it, not because I wanted to show off how much like money that was being made or anything like that. It's like, and I never understood why realtors did that or whatever. And so for me, I've noticed that in our community, like people, not just in real estate, but just in life, like people were always trying to like show off. I've noticed that on Instagram, and I've been at fault at it with like, you know, maybe it's like, you know, we're showing too much of our lives or whatever the case may be. But yeah, I've noticed like our kind of started with our parents where like they were big on like what Stan was saying, flexing with their kids, and like what Chris was saying, flexing with their material items and stuff like that, or like cars. And it's always like that. It's like we're always just trying to please each other, or in a sense trying to show off to each other. And so like for me personally, like I wanted to ask you guys a question, like how, like, do you guys feel that sometimes in your head? Do you feel like as in our community, do you feel that with other people where like, man, I see what they have and I want to try to like make it like that, or I want to make sure that I'm just doing well? Because for me personally, I've never cared what other people have. More than anything, I try my best to be happy for them and super like, in a sense, like, oh, that's cool. That's good for you. I like keep going. Because Chris, I think you touched on is that we should all do the best we can in our careers, in our personal lives, just reach that like the highest pinnacle in whatever we're trying to do. Even with like this podcast, we want to try to reach as many people as possible, and whatever comes along with it, great. But the main thing is we want to make sure that we're reaching out to the community. That's a lot of times why I like doing this podcast with you guys is that we can help inspire the community. But a lot of times, like, I want to make sure that our community is like really like understanding, like, we don't have to compete with each other. We should try to continue to build each other up and push that forward. So like, I guess to throw that question is like, do you guys feel that? Like, you feel that competition with people, or do you want to, you know what I'm saying? Like, you can be honest, it doesn't matter. Like, I feel sometimes like, man, like I think Stan, you mentioned like one of my biggest things is like, man, I would love to have like a Rolex watch or like a amazing car or something like that, or like, you know, the coolest clothes, but I still shop at Target, so it's hard for me to
Hey, Target's not bad.
Hey, this polo's from Target. This polo's from Target.
Hey, I think this shirt's from Target. Oh, no, it's H&M. Just kidding.
This shirt was free.
but
but it's like, you guys feel like, I'm just gonna throw that question out there to you guys.
yeah, one thing I was gonna say too, like, I'll answer your question, but I was thinking about growing up, one of the things that I really, or what, like, an avenue I used to like people please was like sports too. So I'm sure that probably, like, especially like tournaments and like, you know, Stan, you played in like school and stuff, like I feel like that was like such a way to please people, or like to look cool, like, you know, especially if you're like a good player, like, you know, all the girls liked you, or girls would talk to you, or, you know, it's just something about it. So sports was like another way to do that. But anyway, to answer your question now, like, I feel like for me, like, honestly, it's hard, you know, like you kind of have to like fight that battle of like wanting to be like, not be envious, I guess, you know, like sometimes for me, like one thing I struggle with is like, I feel like I kind of started my like corporate journey or corporate career kind of later. So, you know, like after, like, I worked in ministry for like 3 years, and then I jumped into a corporate job, and I feel like I'm always like kind of behind everyone, you know, like everyone else is like a senior or like a team lead, a director, a CEO, whatever it may be, right? And I'm like at this like staff, like lower level always. And so for me, you know, I went from that, and then I got to like a senior role in that position, and now I'm in a different role. But even then, like, I'm not gonna lie, every time I go to LinkedIn, I'll like just look at people's like titles and what they do, and I'm like, damn, like, you know, that's crazy, like that's so cool that they do that. But I was like, man, I want to get to that, like, why can't I do that? Or some of it will be like negative things, you know, it's like, oh man, like it's because I'm like not good at this or not good at that. But sometimes I'm like, oh, like, you know, it'll be like, oh, I want to be like, I want to get to this role so I can make this much money, or like have this much, like, you know, experience or something like that, right? So I will say for me, there is moments of that, and that's something I need to like check myself on, just to not go in that lane, because it's like, it doesn't help anybody at the end of the day. Even if I'm a director, like, what is that going to do? Like, I'm sure I'm going to be jealous of something, or I'm still going to find something in me is not going to be satisfied, right? So I think it's just checking myself, at least for me personally.
Stan, what about you? Do you feel like this like competition with your peer physicians, or do you feel like competition between like people in your community, or just like family members? Like, you ever feel that?
I think that it's a tale of kind of two Stans. So again, back in the day, Stan was very
Two Stans again.
not again, not again. But I think it's, you know, completely different, and it shows kind of how much I've grown as a person. You know, back in the day, I think I might have told you I was very materialistic, right? I wanted the best, you know, most expensive car. I wanted the most expensive job. I wanted the biggest house possible, right? And again, some of these things, you know, are attainable, and you realize that doesn't give you happiness at the end of the day, right? Big thing is, and I used to compare. I was like, you know, when I was on social media, and that's one of the big things I realized when I got out of social media is I'm no longer comparing myself to people, right? Because again, on social media, you see people posting about their new promotions, they got new jobs, new, you know, cars they got, new houses. You know, there's so many things and positive things that you can see on social media. But again, it can be also a little bit of a flex, and sometimes deep down, you wish you had kind of what these people have on social media as well, right? I think there has to be a balance too. It's one of those things where competition is good, right? Think about kind of the streaming services that are going on right now. I think we talked about it in one of our old podcasts, right? If there's one service that just had the monopoly, they wouldn't be growing, right? Or I'll give a better example. Chris, you can probably attest to me on this. So think of Madden, right? So Madden.
Yeah, so exactly what I was thinking of.
Yeah. So they're the only, you know, video game company that, or EA is the only video game company that makes a football game, right? Because they have the monopoly over it. But year after year after year after year, it's the same damn game. They're making very, very, very small, you know, incremental kind of changes, right? If there was another kind of company that was also making football games, they would have some more competition and they would have to do something a little bit more innovative, or people would kind of flock to the other side, right? I think the same can apply for us as people, right? So of course we can stay stagnant. We can just, don't worry about anyone else and keep doing what we do and just day in, day out. But we're not growing too much, right? Sometimes you need that competition to see, oh, more from maybe motivation, be like, hey, this guy's doing this thing. I want to at least strive to aim for what he's doing, right? And it's like that saying, you shoot for the moon, but you'll land at the stars, right? So you may not make it to the moon, but you'll make it farther than you thought you were going to do before. So at the end of the day, it's a balance. And I think the biggest thing is you always, always, always have to continually grow, right? Never stay stagnant. I think it's better to be very cold or very hot than lukewarm. That I would say at least go with one of the extremes rather than just being stagnant and making those kind of minuscule changes day in and day out.
Yeah, it's like the idea of the thinker and the doer. The thinker can sit there for 20 hours and not accomplish anything, where the doer within 20 seconds is still making a footprint or still making some sort of movement. But Stan, I really liked what you said, but I do want to expand a little bit what you were saying. So you were saying that there was a tale of two Stans, and you felt like part of you was looking for material, the best cars, the best houses, the best this and that. And then now you're a little bit different. What do you, if you want to expand, like what was that maybe pivotal moment in your life where you're like, you know what, this is not something I want to continue like doing. I want to change that a little bit. Was there ever a moment that you felt like really changed that mindset for you?
I don't think it was a specific moment. I think it's just understanding myself as a person that, hey, I don't need all of these things to be happy, right? As long as, I have good health. I think that's the number one thing that I realized is, a healthy man has many, many, many wishes, right? But a sick man only has one, and that's to be healthy, right? So again, as long as you kind of have all your health at the end of the day, I think that's the number one thing that matters, right? Second thing is, I don't need all these, you don't need a big house to survive, right? You don't need a nice car to travel from place to place, right? A house is just there for shelter. Again, it's nice to have some of these amenities, but at the end of the day, it's shelter, right? A car, it just gets you from point A to point B. It's nice to have heated seats. It's nice to have, GPS in the car, right? But again, our phones have GPS. There's so many extra amenities that are nice, but they're not necessary. And I think that's the differentiation, where you have to differentiate a need from a want, right? So as long as all your needs are met, no matter how basic it is, if you have the means to kind of upgrade those needs, then go for it, right? But again, as long as your baseline needs are met, I think another thing about me is I try to do it financially smart too, right? So again, there's a lot of these people that have kind of these big houses, big cars, but they're living paycheck to paycheck, right? Versus there's people that, don't have the nicest cars, don't have the nicest house, but financially they're set, right? So always have to think about it in kind of a tale of two ways, right? So you could have, if you're financially smart about it, it opens you up to doing a lot more things, right? So I value, traveling, I value kind of going places, and that's where I'll spend my money rather than paying a house mortgage or paying a car payment month in, month out. I can use that to kind of do those things that I want while I'm healthy and younger.
Yeah, and it's like that Expedia commercial by I forgot the guy's name. He's the Obi-Wan guy from Star Wars, but he was saying at the end of your life, it's not like you're thinking about the biggest TVs and biggest motorcycles and fancy planes. You're thinking about, oh, I wish I had more memories or experiences. That's what we're really trying to get out, because like you guys brought up the whole EA Madden thing. Same thing what I see as iPhone. I'm a big Apple fan. I love their products. A lot of my stuff is Apple related. But as you guys may know or may not know, is iPhone 14 just came out. And a lot, honestly, and this might be debatable in a lot of ways, but to me, when I look at the phone, it looks exactly like my current phone. And it's like my phone is a 12 or whatever. I do enjoy like the new software. I enjoy that there's no more, features. We can be more, integrate with our life, make our lives a little bit easier. That to me is cool. But like, for me, I know a lot of my friends, they just love just continuously updating their phone. And that's, hey, kudos to them and stuff like that. For me, I just don't care to keep up with the Joneses in a sense. I think I mentioned a little before, like as like I'm a realtor, some of the things I did struggle with was social media, because I think Chris mentioned a little bit on LinkedIn and stuff like that. I was the same way, man. Like I would look on LinkedIn, I would look on Instagram. I was like, man, like, I'm starting this career. I'm not really seeing like everyone's selling a house every month, or they're moving up in their corporate ladder. And like, for me, I'm trying to balance two jobs and stuff, like trying to make sure that both of it's going well. But it's like when you see social media, it's like, man, like all this, like everyone's doing so well and this and that. And that's what kind of like the evil part of social media, where I see it, is that there was times where I had to kind of unfollow certain people, because I like in a sense, like I had to kind of like make sure I had to step away, because my mind was just like in a sense like warping, because it's like I'm not thinking properly. I'm not thinking about my own goals. I'm seeing everyone else's goals and comparing those to me, where the best way to do was just like continue to stay in my lane, continue to do what I had to do every day, wake up in the morning, hit the gym, do my work, take care of my family, my friends, like all those little things that I had to stay in my lane. And eventually the hard work starts paying off, because I think Conor McGregor said it, is that as long as you keep at it and you're passionate and you work hard, it has to come true. In a sense, like if you continue to work hard, it's kind of like weight loss. Like if you stick to your diet daily, if you go hit the gym daily, if you stay consistent, it's gonna happen. It's impossible for it to not happen. And obviously it's not like everyone's gonna be millionaires or anything like that. I mean, kudos if that's what happens and whatnot, but that's some of the things I always think about. Like I try to, like kind of what you said, Stan, like kind of stay in my own lane, hope the best for everyone, be happy for everyone, but continue to stay focused, like that tunnel vision on your goals or my goals and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, and I'll throw it back to Chris. Like, was there ever a moment for you that you felt like that changed?
Yeah, no, I was gonna say too, man. Y'all been dropping some like some quotes or some like listening to somebody that says something good, or Stan coming up with his random quotes and stuff. I was like, yeah, that's tight. It's motivational. Yeah, I think when you get older, I definitely feel like there's a shift, because like when you're younger, just kind of figuring things out and you're trying to like understand who you are. And I'm not saying I understand who I am now, but I feel like as you get older, you start seeing like what actually matters in life. Like Stan was saying, like health, like that matters, or setting your family up for success, or like taking care of like your family, right? Like I feel like those are what I see as most important in my life. And like other things, like I mean, growing up, like I cared so much about sports and basketball and stuff. Now I'm like I can't even play sports like that. Or I cared so much about like I don't know, just all the things that didn't matter. And now I see like what does matter. And like it's nice too, because you can focus your attention on like a few things instead of focusing on like 10, 15 things, and kind of just stretching yourself thin that way. And I guess the last thing I wanted to say too was like what Stan was saying with like once you kind of figure out like what actually matters in life, like you can just focus that attention on it. And like even like with people that want to get like a fancy car or house and all that stuff, like for me, I'm really like thankful for my parents. Like I think you know they showed off and people pleased in their own certain specific ways. But one thing I really admired about them is like, my parents never had like a crazy house. They had just regular Toyotas. They didn't have like crazy clothes or anything. I think I appreciated that, because having those things be just like, necessities or things that you just have that you can take care of your actions, right? Like Stan was saying, like, you have a house. It doesn't have to be the biggest house, or you have a car. It doesn't have to be the nicest car, but it gets like the job done, right? And like you can have that and then like focus on other areas that you want to, like for me, like I want to set my family up for success, like I mentioned last week, like we're having a kid soon, eventually, and like I want my son or daughter to have like a good future, or like especially like this is like getting too much into it, but like I want them to have like opportunities to get into sports or extracurriculars and stuff. And like the decisions I make now, I want to make sure like it's for them and for them to be successful, right? So I feel like that's helped me change my mindset of not being so people pleasing, but just focusing on the things that matter. But I think like you guys mentioned too, like social media, trying to compare yourself to other people, that's where I start losing that focus. And so I think it's like a daily thing where it's like, hey, like stay in your lane, understand what matters, and just understand some of these things are just facades, or some of these things are like the greatest things, right, that you see on social media. And so just being, I guess, mindful of that for me.
Tell you, man, these are some gems that we got going on. So to all the fans, all the back row universe that's listening right now, continue. If you can take anything from this episode, stay in your lane, stay focused, wish everyone the best, but keep focused on your goals, work hard and stay consistent because it all will come together at the end. Fellas, awesome. I love that y'all's honesty. I love your genuality.
Good topic.
Yeah. Hey, it shows. I mean, it was a good thing to get into. But one of my favorite things that I would love to get into right now, free shout outs.
Free shout outs.
If you guys don't know, if you're your first time joining the Backrow Boy episodes, free shout out is a part in our episode where we love to shout out products, people, things we enjoy, food items, restaurants, whatever. These are all free because these are not, people have not sponsored us and we're not getting paid for this, but we still want to, shout it out. So this week I'll go ahead and start it off. As you guys may have noticed, if you guys have been watching, season 1 and enjoying season 2, you've noticed my setup is a little different today, obviously it's not my normal setup. This is actually my childhood room that I grew up in, where I'm actually, oh God, don't look at that poster. That's falling down a little bit. But yeah, no, but this is pretty much my mom's house. Me and my wife were here for the next couple of weeks because we're actually going through some renovations at our current house. And I'm not a big fan of dust and dirt and, contractors like in our house. So I was like, let's just stay out here. And yeah, so big shout out to my mom, free rent, free food, free child. So can't complain. Hey. But yeah, I mean, all these posters, these posters have been hanging. That's, if you guys don't know, that's The Rock. That's my boy. Oh God, don't look at my bed. I haven't made it today. But that's my boy. That's The Rock. I know it's kind of wrong because I have The Rock above my bed and I have a picture of the cross next to it. That's like basically so, people are definitely going to be judging me on Twitter and social media.
Oh, for sure.
But hey, shout out to my mom. So I'm gonna definitely that's my free shout out. But I'm gonna pass to you guys. Chris, what's your shout out for the week?
All right. Mine is not as good as yours, but one thing I feel like I've enjoyed is a purchase. It's not that expensive, but for me, luckily we don't have it as much inside our house, but like when we're going in our backyard, there's like all these mosquitoes, or if we leave the door open because of our dog, mosquitoes or flies will come in. And so I got this little zapper thing. Nice. And it's just, just a simple bat, but there's this button you can press, right? And if you turn it on, it'll electrocute them, I guess. And it's such a simple thing, but sometimes there's those fucking flies that just just juke juke. And so once you hit it, it makes a sound, and it's the most satisfying thing. It's you just speared someone, or you just killed someone. That's what it feels like. So I want to give a shout out. I don't even know if this has a brand on it, but I want to give a shout out to this thing, man. This fly swatter.
So, fly swatter, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, get yourself
racket.
We have that too. I like that. That's really nice.
Yeah, and it's fun.
When you leave it on, it starts frying the bug.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Die, bitch.
Die.
Well, I'm an animal lover. I'm reporting y'all to PETA because flies are feelings too.
Yeah, please report me.
Stan, what about you, my boy? What's your free shout out for the week?
Well, I'll go from Chris's not as expensive free shout out to my really expensive free shout out, which is, I'm sure y'all know I don't look like Mr. Popo anymore. So that's a callback to episode 1. I did upgrade my computer, as y'all can see. So we had an old iMac that I was using to edit videos and things like that. My mom said she wanted a new computer because the old one is kind of getting a little bit more on the slow side. So I bought her one of the newer iMacs. So that's what I'm actually recording on. That's one I actually edit all my videos on too. So episode 1 that I recorded, and it should post tomorrow or a week ago as of uploading this video, was edited on this computer. So hopefully I'll see that jump in quality. I have had a little bit more time, a little bit more power to kind of edit these videos. So shout out to kind of the iMac. I think the biggest thing, Abby, you were telling me or telling us before, is definitely you have to invest in yourself, right? Whether it's your physical appearance, whether it's kind of the technology that you use. I think all of it kind of plays in a part, whether it's getting a haircut, whether it's buying nicer clothes, or whether it's making yourself look better just with a better camera, right? You can look, I think camera setup is very, very important, right? So you can make like a $10 studio setup look like $1,000 setup with the right lighting and the right camera. So just wanted to shout out my iMac, shout out the video quality, and shout out the Backrow Boys.
Man, we've been shouting a lot of Apple products today. So Apple,
Man,
and
fucking
Tim
Apple.
Cooks, if you guys are listening, please sponsor us. Come on. But
Use code BRB at checkout for 10% off.
yeah,
Hey.
10%. And if it doesn't work, just keep clicking it. Maybe something will come along. But guys, to the Backrow Boy universe, thank you so much for joining. Like I said in the beginning of the episode, like, subscribe, tell your friends and families about us. We're here to stay, and we're going to continue on. So share this episode and enjoy it. And if you leave a comment if you enjoy it, leave a comment if you hated it. The more comments, it helps the algorithm. If you guys know about that, you know about it. But hey, from myself, Stan, and Chris, stay safe, stay classy, and thank you for joining us in the back row. Peace.